Assalamu alaikum. This is Yasmin Mogahed, and I am coming to you from North Carolina, actually, at the moment. Thank you for joining. Inshallah, you guys are having a good day, evening, whatever time it is there. Inshallah, I'm just going to jump right in. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So I'm really excited about these upcoming courses, and inshallah I'm going to be beginning these courses in just a few weeks. Actually, it's just a few days now in South Africa, inshallah. So I'm going to be coming to South Africa for my tour, and I'm going to be visiting 3 cities, inshallah. I'll be starting out in Johannesburg, and inshallah, Johannesburg event will be on July 14th. Now, I want to go through and talk about each of the courses and the dates of the courses and why these courses are something I think are very important. They're brand new courses talking about topics which I really firmly believe are very relevant and very important, and things that we're dealing with and maybe not necessarily speaking about. So Johannesburg is going to be July 14th, inshallah, and I'm going to be having 2 seminars in Johannesburg on July 14th. One is going to be in the morning, and one is going to be in the evening. So the first seminar is entitled "Why Can't I Get What I Want?" And inshallah, I will continue. I'm going to be actually speaking about all the cities, but I'll begin with the courses in Johannesburg, and then after that I'll be in Durban, inshallah, and then finally I'll be in Cape Town. So the first course, why can't I get what I want? This is a question which a lot of us struggle with, and that is that oftentimes we really, we want things very badly. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them. There's a common question that we get, which is, I've made dua for this thing. I've made so much dua. Why isn't my dua being answered? Or why aren't I getting what I want? In terms of what I've asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes it leads us to feeling resentful. I'm not getting what I want. I keep making dua. So this question has been something that a lot of people struggle with. So inshallah, we'll talk about this question and on a deeper scale, talk about, what the implications are of the very nature of this life, that how are we supposed to view dunya and how are we supposed to interact with dunya? And most importantly, and sometimes this is really what shapes our reaction, and that is our expectations. What are our expectations from dunya, and what should they be? And so how can we begin to shape our expectations and therefore shape our reactions and make our interaction with everything in this life a lot easier? So a lot of people suffer, and a lot of the suffering that people go through has to do with not knowing what to expect from dunya, and not knowing how to react to the things that happen in dunya. Why is it that we don't always get what we want? Why is it that we have to go through pain and hardship and difficulty? What is our ultimate purpose? These are many of the themes in the topics that I'll be covering, inshallah, in this course. What is our greater purpose, and how does that lead us in our lives, and how does that fit into our everyday dealings with people, and as well as issues in our lives that happen? How can that affect our responses when things happen to us, or when things don't work out the way we wish or we desperately want them to work out? So what it'll be is that we'll talk about the ultimate purpose of our life here, and then how to deal with disappointments in life when we can't get what we want, and answer the essential question of why is this life imperfect, and why can't we always get every single thing we ask for? How do we answer this question of why aren't my du'as being answered? And then inshallah we'll discuss practical tips, or a prescription of how to be able to live our lives in a way where we don't become paralyzed every time we don't get what we want, or every time things don't work out as we hoped that they would. So that's the first course, inshallah, on July 14th in Johannesburg. The second course, I Seek Change. Now, this is a course that's coming to Johannesburg, rather to South Africa for the first time. I taught this course in the UK, and alhamdulillah, it sold out. People really benefited from this course, and we got a lot of amazing feedback about this course. Now, this course, I Seek Change, talks specifically about some of the so-called taboo issues in our community that many of us struggle with, but are not necessarily addressed and not necessarily talked about. Unfortunately, a lot of times in our discourse in our communities, issues are sometimes swept under the rug. So instead of dealing with these issues and openly discussing them, we sometimes try to pretend like they're not there or sweep them under the rug. And so some of these issues that I'm going to handle, inshallah, discuss issues having to do with depression, anxiety, how to cope with stress in a way that's healthy. Because at the end of the day, stress is a part of life. It's impossible, no matter who you are and no matter where you live or where you came from or how much money you have or how much status or power you have, there's no way to live a stress-free life. I mean, we might think, oh, what about celebrities? What about, people of power? They also obviously live with stress, and maybe sometimes more stress than many of us. So stress is something we have to learn to live with in life. And if we're not able to find the tools to handle stress, we won't be able to navigate through life in an effective way. So dealing with stress. I'm also going to talk about, taboo topics of for example, sihr, which is black magic. That this is a topic, especially in the West, especially, I found that as I've traveled throughout different Muslim countries and non-Muslim countries as well, and met different communities, I found that there are various extremes that we have in the Muslim community. And I find that in certain parts of the world, there's issues that are just not discussed. It's just almost as if people want to believe as if they don't exist. It's just, there's no space for it to be discussed. And I feel like sihr is one of those issues, that black magic is one of those issues, especially in America. Right now in America, this is one of those topics that still hasn't really been talked about openly in our Muslim circles, and yet people are suffering from it. And then I find that there are also other extremes, and that's certain countries where this becomes sort of an obsession, where unfortunately, because it's actually so prevalent and so common, and that it becomes almost a focal point. So I want to talk about, obviously where we stand is somewhere in the middle, right? And that's something that's a principle throughout our deen, is that concept of balance, ummatun wasata, that we're the people of the middle path, that everything is balanced in our deen. And our approach to things like sihr, black magic, ayn, evil eye, hasad, envy, that our approach to these things is one of a balanced approach, one of the middle ground. We don't claim that it doesn't exist, because that would be, disregarding the Quran or parts of the Quran, or disbelieving in parts of the Quran, as we know that there are references in the Quran to sihr. There are in Surah Al-Baqarah, for example, ayah 102, there are references in the Quran to hasad, Surah Al-Falaq, for example, those who blow on knots, the people who are doing the sihr. So there are references to these things in the Quran, and so to disbelieve in it would be to disbelieve in parts of the Quran. However, at the same time, sometimes we become too focused on it, or it becomes an obsession, and there's also the issue of how do we protect ourselves from these things, these unseen types of harm that do affect us in real life. However, many of us, we don't have the proper guidance of how to handle it, how to protect ourselves from it, and how to treat and cure it. And so these are things that inshallah we'll talk about, that what is the, and another issue that a lot of people get confused about is the difference between mental health issues and issues that have to do with the unseen. You know, where do we draw the line, and what's the difference between mental health issues and, you know, things that have to do with the unseen, whether that's sihr or black magic, ayn, evil eye, or hasad, envy. That you know, which one is it, and do we believe in one, disbelieve in the other? You know, where can we find that middle ground, where we are taking a balanced approach, which also takes into account, you know, what we know from our psychological research, as well as what we know from the Quran and the Sunnah from Allah and His Messenger. So it's a very difficult balance to find, but inshallah we'll talk about that, inshallah, and do our best to find, you know, that where is that common ground, or rather where is that balance. And how can we understand these issues and differentiate between them? And then, because it's important that we understand in order to be able to, you know, for you to treat something and for you to be able to cure something, you have to be able to diagnose it properly and to understand it. And so, inshallah, we'll take from both, you know, psychological research, as well as the Quran and the Sunnah, what we've been given by Allah and His Messenger, and be able to sort of discuss these issues in a way where we have a better understanding of what is depression and anxiety, and what is sihr, and what is ayn, and what is hasad, and how can we treat both of them, and then how can we differentiate between the two of them, because this is a confusion that we have, you know, across the world. To be honest, I find that on one extreme, there are people who believe, or there are trends where there's the belief that everything is biological, that everything is psychological, and that these issues don't exist of the unseen. And that just isn't true. We have evidence in the Quran and the Sunnah that yes, these things are real, and this is sahih, you know, sahih narrations of people being harmed through the unseen. But on the other hand, we also know that there is, you know, there are psychological issues as well, and that mental health issues also exist, and not everything is from the unseen. However, not everything is psychological and biological either, that there is an element that exists of the unseen, of the shayateen and their army, that can affect us. And there's much evidence to that degree as well, whether it's through black magic or envy or evil eye. What are some of the concepts of you know, going through that and being able to find, you know, not just the treatments, but just understanding the differences. And of course, one other theme that I want to cover, inshallah, is the theme of you know, where we have this concept in our community, where if a person has iman, that they shouldn't be suffering from mental health issues, which is a myth that needs to be dispelled. That, you know, we'll talk about what those who came before us went through, and is sadness and depression something that's linked to low iman. Inshallah, we'll dispel many of these myths and just take your questions as well, and discuss some of these challenges that we're facing. So on the next stop in the tour is going to be on July 15th in Durban, and let me just give the locations as well. So in Johannesburg, the event on July 14th is in Image Lifestyle Conference Center, and that'll be both seminars in the morning and the evening. The event in Durban is at the NMJ Islamic Center, and that's on the 15th of July, inshallah. And in Durban, I will also be teaching the course I Seek Change. So the course that I just finished discussing about dealing with depression, anxiety, stress, sihr, ayn, you know, what are the differences between these things? What are some of the ways treat and protect ourselves from both. And then, inshallah, I'll be in Cape Town on July 21st. The first seminar is a brand new seminar that I haven't actually taught anywhere else in the world. It will be, this will be the first time I'm teaching this course. I just actually got an announcement that some of the sisters from Kenya are going to be flying into Cape Town, especially for the event. Alhamdulillah. It's always a pleasure to be able to see people from all over the world. One of the things that I love is that we are such a global community. I live in the United States, but if I travel across the globe, literally, go 30 hours, I travel and I end up somewhere and I immediately can connect with people there. And it's just this one deep, deep connection that we have. And that's La ilaha illallah, that no matter where you go, there's that connection and that bond that you can be from the other side of the world and grow up in a completely different environment, maybe speak a completely different language, but because of La ilaha illallah, we have that bond and that connection, we immediately click. So that's amazing. In Cape Town, we will be speaking. The first event. I'm very, very excited about this event. This course is the first time I'm teaching it, and it's about how we can rise above. So rising high. See, in our lives, we go through difficulties, and there's so many things that can hold us down. There's many chains that we suffer from. Expectations from society, expectations from our families, the stress of having to balance, our family life and maybe our career, the stress of how much bombardment we have from social media, the images that we have, the problems we have with self-esteem and self-image, especially living in a world that is especially living in a world where there's so much telling us that it's all about how you look, it's all about what you wear, it's all about what you drive. We live more and more in a culture right now that worships appearances, that worships these material things. And when I was growing up, and not to give my age away, but when I was growing up, we didn't have this global access to what everyone is eating at any moment, and what they're doing and at where they are at any given point. Like everywhere you go, you can check in, right? So everyone knows which restaurant you're in, which street you're walking down. They can know where you are and what you're doing at any given point. And so what that's done, there are pros and cons to this culture that we have of being connected online in every moment. But one of the dangers of this is that we've become so obsessed with being on display, right? So every single thing we do, every single thing we think, and God, every single thing we eat, for God's sakes, is on display. And so it may seem harmless, but what it has done is it's made us ultra obsessed with appearances, and ultra obsessed with how we appear in front of people. And then it becomes all about people's assessments, right? Because we are we're looking at it's always looking at, okay, am I getting approval, right? Because there's a method to get approval. You can get likes, you can get comments. People are constantly giving us their assessment of everything we're doing, everything we're wearing, everything we're eating. And so what it can do is it can build in us this idea that, I have to be perfect and I have to show the world that I'm perfect. So this creates a lot of stress, and this creates, there's a whole new list of challenges that we're facing right now because of this new world that we live in. And I've witnessed it because, I'm that generation that had both worlds, right? I had the world where we never had Facebook and we never had social media. We never even had cell phones growing up, you know, like, yeah, I'm that old, you know? So it's like the idea is that I've seen that life, and then I've seen this life where, and so I've seen the difference. I've witnessed the difference, and it's amazing to see how much things have changed, and then how that affects us psychologically and spiritually. There are deep effects and consequences to this, and one of them is that we've just become much more obsessed with image and with appearances and how we look, and trying to be perfect and trying to show the world that we're perfect, and that we feel as though everything we do has to be on display. And so this is something that we have to actually consciously combat. And so we'll talk about how to break a lot of these chains that do end up holding us down, and how can we live a life that's more healthy, both spiritually and psychologically, and in terms of our relationships as well. Dealing with these expectations, both cultural, career versus marriage, societal pressures, dealing with the opposite gender, issues that have to do with the actual stuff that we're doing in life, right? And how to get through that. Despite many of the chains that keep us down, and then also how to rise above the challenges that we face in life. So many of us face challenges from every direction. You know, sometimes these challenges are relationship challenges, sometimes they're financial, sometimes they're psychological, sometimes we ourselves hold ourselves down. You know, a lot of times we beat ourselves up, and we're much harder on ourselves than anyone is on us. And so how can we stop beating ourselves up? How can we start learning to live, more, this idea of loving yourself? What does that mean? What's a healthy way to love yourself? You know, we're not, see, in the deen, we're always taught to be humble, right? But being humble doesn't mean beating yourself up. Being humble doesn't mean that you are hard on yourself, you know, even harder oftentimes than Allah is on us, you know. And this is actually, this isn't healthy to put more on yourself than even Allah. Sometimes Allah can forgive us, but we can't forgive ourselves, you know. So that's a problem that we struggle with oftentimes, and it leads to low self-esteem, and it actually becomes a chain that binds us and keeps us down in life. So how can we break all of these things? And then finally, in Cape Town, I will also be teaching the course I Seek Change. And again, that's the course I spoke about regarding issues of depression, anxiety, sihr, the unseen, you know, things having to do with evil eye, and envy and black magic. How can we differentiate between, you know, mental health issues and these things? Do they exist? And how can we treat and protect ourselves from them? So the event in Cape Town, inshallah, will be on July 21st, and it will be at the Cape Town International Convention Center. Again, it'll be two events, one in the morning, one in the evening. They are not the same class. They are two separate courses. The same in Johannesburg, two separate courses in the morning and the evening. So if you want to attend both, it will be different material. And inshallah, I will also have my books available. I'll be bringing Reclaim Your Heart as well as Love and Happiness. And inshallah, we'll have a chance to do a meet and greet. And, the thing about these events and why I love doing these events is really being able to connect with the people. And, alhamdulillah, I've been able to do that around the world. And I'm extremely excited about going back to one of my favorite countries. South Africa is always, it really has a special place in my heart. The people in South Africa are among the most generous and warm and welcoming human beings I've ever met. And alhamdulillah, many people over the world have been very welcoming, and I'm very, very honored to be coming back. Inshallah, if you're interested in signing up, you can go to alburujpress.com. There's also information on the chat box about how to get tickets and how to sign up. I'm going to take a few moments right now to take questions. So I know we have people, alhamdulillah, from all over. watching. So I'm just going to take a few moments right now. If you want to ask questions about, specific to the courses, I'll be happy to take them now, inshallah, as many as we have time for, inshallah. Okay, so we have some people. Okay, so salam from Kurdistan, north of Iraq. Mashallah, alaikum salam. Chicago, Tunisia. We have people, mashallah, signing in from all over. India. Wow. Do we got people from South Africa? Yes, we do. Okay, Saudi Arabia. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, just go ahead. Oman. Wow. Culture shock. New York City. Okay. I watch your lectures on a daily basis. That's awesome. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, lots of questions. Okay. Wow, we have people from all over the world. Okay. Kenya, mashallah. New York, White Plains, Singapore. UK, I guess. People putting flags. I don't know what the flags are. I'm just waiting on the questions as well. Wow. Someone's gonna have to translate these flags for me. Okay. So here's a question. Sister Yasmin, I listened to most of your lectures. I haven't ever heard you speaking about after death. Okay. So yes, so life after death. I mean, we definitely discuss within these topics about life after death. For example, when talking about dealing with hardships, I mean, you can't really put things into context in this life unless you talk about the hereafter. This life won't make sense without understanding the hereafter. There's a really powerful hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said that there was a man who had experienced only pain in this life, and so that person was then taken in the hereafter and just dipped in one dip into paradise. And then he was asked, have you ever experienced pain? And that person says, I've never experienced pain. And so what we learned from this, and then on the other hand, there was a person who had experienced only pleasure in this life. So just luxury, pleasure. And then they were taken and dipped one dip in the hellfire and asked, did you ever experience pleasure? And said, I've never experienced pleasure. And so the lesson from this hadith is that when you compare this life to the next, it almost makes this life insignificant in terms of what we've been through. So a person who's been through suffering, extreme suffering, just one dip in paradise makes them completely forget their suffering as if it never happened. And that's how amazing Jannah is. And on the other hand, someone who had only luxury and pleasure in this life, and they get one taste of hellfire, will feel as if they've never had luxury or pleasure. So it just puts things into context that we can't really fully understand this life unless we understand the next. And that's that our existence is this life is only a blink of an eye in terms of the greater existence that we have as human beings. Trust in Allah. Do we need trust Allah in general or in a specific way? And then there was questions about, when we bring in these classes to the UK. Inshallah, these courses will be brought to the UK in 2019. So look out for that. Inshallah, it will be also announced online, as well as Al-Buruj Press's website. South Africa loves me. That's really great. I love South Africa. Cape Town loves me. I really love Cape Town. Cape Town's amazing. So is Johannesburg and Durban. Mashallah, the whole country is beautiful and the people are beautiful, mashallah. So someone wrote, I lost my husband last year and I'm a spinal fusion survivor. Last year was a bad year. I nearly killed myself. Alhamdulillah, this year saved me again. I'm from Kuala Lumpur. I want to meet you and greet. You know, one thing we have to, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease all your affairs and help you to find peace and to get the help that you need. There was another sister who said that her daughter suffers from severe anxiety and she needs help. Please understand that as believers, we're told to tie our camel. What that means is that if we are suffering from a specific issue, in this case, it's a mental health issue, we have to seek the help of professionals in that field. We can't, for example, if we have a problem with our tooth, right, we need to go to a dentist, right? If I have a problem with my tooth, I can't go to a plumber and expect the plumber to fix my tooth, right? That's not going to work out. I have to go to the person who knows that field. And when it comes to mental health issues, whether you are dealing with depression or suicidality or anxiety, you know, you're grieving the loss of your husband as well as your other health issues, it's very, very important that you go to the professionals in that field, that you seek mental health professionals to help you, because we can't expect that an imam is going to be a specialist in mental health issues as well as relationship issues, as well as fiqh, as well as deen, that everybody has their speciality, right? We don't go to the plumber to fix our teeth. We don't go to, you know, a mechanic to fix our heart, right? We go to the specialists in their field. And it's the same thing when it comes to mental health issues. We have to go to the mental health professionals to help us with those issues. And we can't expect that someone who studied fiqh is going to be able to be a specialist in every field. So that's very, very important that you seek that help. There's absolutely no shame in that. It's actually part of our deen to seek help and to take what's called akhd bil asbab, that to take the means. You know, if you're sick, you go to the doctor. If you need a certain treatment, you take medicine. The Prophet ﷺ instructed us to tie our camel. You know, when the companion was not tying his camel, he said, I have my trust in Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, "I'qilha wa tawakkal," meaning tie your camel and put your trust in Allah, that the two are not mutually exclusive. So going to a doctor, going to a mental health professional does not mean you don't have tawakkul. It doesn't mean that you're not relying on Allah. And it doesn't mean you have some weakness in your iman, but rather it's part of our deen to seek the help of those people who are specialists in that field. That's part of tying your camel. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala please keep these people in your du'as. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease your affairs and heal you in every way and make it easy on you. Ameen. And may you find the help that you need and the support that you need, inshallah, in your life. Please don't feel that there's any shame in that. And that doesn't mean you're not relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should seek out that help in your community, wherever you're living. Seek out that help and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send the right people to you, to send the people who can really help you, inshallah. Okay, so someone's asking, when will we see you in Egypt? That's a very good question. Inshallah, make dua. My whole family lives there, and I pray to be able to go. Not my immediate family, but my extended family live in Egypt, and I hope, inshallah, to be able to go back soon. London, Pakistan, Manchester. So inshallah, we will be, like I said, I'm hoping to get into many of these other countries, but right now, inshallah, we do plan on bringing these courses to the UK in 2019, inshallah ta'ala. And inshallah have exciting announcements for 2019 in terms of coming into new countries. Inshallah, just stay tuned for that. Salam from Afghanistan. Wa alaikum salam. Cape Town, mashallah. Hope to see you all there. Qatar. How are we as Muslim women able to draw from the lives of the daughters and wives of the Prophet ﷺ on addressing feminism or modern day challenges? Okay, so it's not directly related to the course, so I won't get too much into it. But one thing that we have to understand, I think I'll just answer this question with a quote from Umar radiallahu anh, and that is this: he said that we were the most, as an ummah, we were one of the most disgraced people, and then Islam elevated us, Islam dignified us, and then if we seek any kind of dignity or honor outside of Islam, we will be degraded again. And I think this is such a perfect answer to this question, that anytime we seek honor outside of the deen, whatever concept, whatever theology, whatever ideology that is, if we're looking for honor outside of the deen, outside of Allah, outside of Islam, we will always end up humiliated. And so we can only find honor and dignity from Allah and His Messenger, from Islam. Allah is actually the owner of dignity and honor, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give that. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He elevates whom He wills, and He allows to become degraded whom He wills. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of all honor. I Seek Change is a seminar not really discussed, and it's coming for the first time to South Africa. Many may be shy to attend due to a taboo. What should you say to this? Well, that's exactly why we have to attend. And that's exactly why it's important that we do have these discussions, because it creates a safe space. I mean, it isn't one-on-one. It's not like you're going and everyone's going to know that, you know, you're having this specific issue. I mean, alhamdulillah, last year we had audiences of 1,500 to 2,000 in Cape Town. So it creates a space where you have it's a safe space to be able to discuss these issues without making it, without losing that anonymity that you may want, to not have, that privacy, because you get to ask your questions anonymously. You get to listen to the answers and to listen to other people's issues, which you may also be dealing with, but maybe you may be too shy to ask about. So there's a lot that you can benefit in a way that where it's a safe space, and it's not invading of privacy, because it's a course. We're all there, we're all learning together. You get a chance to ask your questions anonymously, as well as listening to other people's questions. So one person asks, we often find ourselves stuck in one place. Our thoughts often overtake us. That's absolutely true. One thing, she says, I'm keenly awaiting the talk, breaking free from the chains that bind us, rising high. Absolutely right. Sometimes we get stuck, and you hit the nail on the head. Oftentimes it's our thoughts, and that's something that inshallah I'll talk about in depth, because sometimes our biggest enemy is our own mind, and we don't really realize that. We think, okay, you know what? I will indulge whatever thought comes into my mind, but we don't realize that sometimes our mind becomes an opening to shaitan, to our nafs, and to very, very negative types of thoughts and negative types of influences can come through the mind. So we have to be very, very careful and conscious of how we think, and what we allow to resonate or to live really in our minds and our hearts. So I'll talk a lot about that, inshallah, and how we can manage that. So we have a message from India. Alhamdulillah, keep us in your dua. Okay, inshallah, I'll wrap it up there. I am really looking forward to meeting everyone, inshallah. Make sure that you sign up. If you are living in South Africa, even if you're living outside South Africa, as we mentioned, we have people coming from all over to join the tour in South Africa. We have Johannesburg on July 14th, Durban on July 15th, and Cape Town on July 21st. Okay, one last question. I'm just going to cover this. Yasmin, you always emphasize on with difficulty comes ease and not after. I've experienced so much adversity. I try to look for ease, but I'm losing hope. I'm losing myself. Please help. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you. It is an absolute promise by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that inna ma'al usri yusra, that indeed with hardship is ease, and the ease is plural. So I want to just emphasize that it's really a lot of our reactions to things has to do with how we view them and our own thinking. It's not necessarily what happens to us, but it's about how we respond to what happens to us and how we interpret what happens to us, and how we, how we're digesting it, and then which kind of lens are we wearing. See, if we go around life wearing glasses that are dark, then everything we look at, it could be bright outside. The sun could be bright as anything, but we only see darkness. If we're wearing glasses that are tinted with red, we're going to see everything as red. If we're wearing glasses that are tinted with green, everything looks green. Regardless of what it actually is, that's how we see it. And so this is what happens in life, that depending on our own view, our own lens, how we view things, how we interpret things, which things are we choosing to focus on? This is all control you have, power that we have, to navigate our lives. That what are you choosing to focus on in every situation, no matter how bad it is, for anyone. We can look at people who are suffering the most in the world, and yet Allah has still given them ease. Even the children, who are suffering, the men, women, and children who are suffering in the most difficult parts of the world, they are also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also giving them some ease in their lives. But it all has to do, and one thing you find, that subhanAllah, many of these people, and it's amazing to see that many of these people who are suffering with things that we couldn't even imagine. I tell the story of a close friend of mine. She had 3 children with a debilitating disorder, where her doctor told her that all 3 of these children are going to slowly lose their faculties until they die. And she was going to, have to watch this and not have no power to stop it. There was no cure for this disease that they had. And yet I talk about her story and how inspiring it was, because she had an attitude of, I'm drowning in gratitude. So that ability to have these hardships and yet be able to find peace and be able to still be grateful is something that has to do with our outlook. It has to do with how we're viewing our lives and the lens that we have and what we choose to focus on. And one thing I learned from her is that whenever she was dealing with a difficulty, and she was dealing with a chronic difficulty, not just the difficulty that comes and goes, or like for a period, but this is chronic. I mean, this is something for a lifetime, right? And when she was dealing with these difficulties, she said that she was always in the habit of looking at those who had less than her. She would be suffering, but she would be worrying about the people in Syria, right? Her daughter would be suffering. Her daughter was sick, but she would worry about, the earthquake that happened in Japan. Like, her focus was not on her own suffering. Her focus was on how other people have it worse, that how she has more than these others, and her concern was like, look at these other people. And so the way we look at our lives and the way we look at the world has a dramatic effect on how we feel. It has a massive effect on how we react, but if I'm going to just focus on what I don't have, right, on what's missing, then I'm always going to feel poor. I'm always going to feel like it's not fair. I'm always going to feel like I don't have enough. That's the key, is it has to do with our outlook and our focal point, right? There's that example, and inshallah I'll just wrap it up with this. There's the example of the little boy, right? The little boy holding the one slice of cake, and he's so happy, right? And then you have another little boy, he's holding a giant cake, but there's only one slice missing, and he's sad, right? What's the difference between the 2 boys? Well, the difference is only on the focal point. In fact, the boy in the picture with the one slice, he actually has less cake, but he's happy, right? And the one who has the full cake with a slice missing, he has more cake, but he's sad. And the reason is that he's focused on what he's missing. He's focused on the problems in his life. He's focused on the challenges in his life. He's not focused on the 13 pieces of cake that he has. He's focused on the one that he doesn't have. And similarly, the one who has only one slice, he's just focused on that one slice. He only has one. He doesn't have 13, but he's happy, he's grateful because he's focused on what he has. So our shifting our focus has a profound effect on our psychology and on our state, both psychologically and spiritually, and also how we view things and how we respond. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easier for us to always see the ease in every situation, to always be able to be grateful for the ease and to focus on it, and to be able to not focus on just what's going wrong and just on what's missing, but be a people of focus on what we have and the abundance of gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. So again, to reiterate, inshallah, July 14th, Johannesburg, I have 2 courses. Again, there are 2 different courses. You can sign up for both. The books will be available at both, inshallah. We'll be covering different topics. I Seek Change, as well as Why Can't I Get What I Want? Why Can't I Get What I Want is in the morning, and then I Seek Change in the evening. And then you have July 15th in Durban. I'll be teaching also I Seek Change. And this is the course, as I mentioned, about the depression, anxiety, handling these things, stress, as well as talking about the unseen issues like black magic and envy and hasad, or evil eye, ayn. And then inshallah on the 21st of July, I'll be in Cape Town, again, 2 courses, morning and evening. Again, they're different courses, brand new course, Rising High, Breaking the Chains That Bind Us. This is a brand new course. I've never taught it anywhere in the world. This is the first time I'm teaching it. So I'm very excited about it. Inshallah, it's going to be in Cape Town on July 21st. And then inshallah, I will also be teaching the course I Seek Change. Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you for joining from all over the world, literally. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. And I look forward to seeing you in South Africa. And inshallah, as we take these courses to other parts of the world, inshallah, I hope to see you then. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.